After trying salvia 2 different times with friends in a social setting, I decided to go about my next trip in a more serious and intimate way. I took a backpack with the salvia and pipe, and I headed up to a favorite hiking spot of mine alone. After walking up the trail a bit, I turned right and cut a path perpendicular to the main trail to decrease the odds of anyone coming across my path while I was under the effects of salvia. I found a nice spot that felt safe, and I sat down. After loading the pipe, I sat for a couple minutes, taking deep breaths and just relaxing as much as I could before having this experience. When I felt ready, I took a large hit of the salvia and held it in for about 20 seconds. Immediately after letting out the smoke, I took another, smaller hit. Even before taking that second hit, I noticed that time seemed to be rapidly slowing down, like the world around me was coming to a stop. Immediately after inhaling the second dose, I set down the salvia and leaned back to lay down flat on my back and close my eyes. I remember looking into the darkness behind my eyelids, waiting for any changes. Somehow, without me noticing, the entire experience snuck up on me. By this, I mean I can't recall how it all started. I suddenly found myself in the peak of the effects. I was surrounded by and partially consumed in this rhythmic, marching wave of sound. I was in total motion, sort of chugging along like a train. I felt like I was not alone, but more like I was part of a group. The group was marching, almost dancing in a way, moving from left to right, and everything seemed as though it were two-dimensional. At some point, out of either fear or confusion, I opened my eyes and sat up. Then I wasn't sure if I was standing up or laying down. It was like the normal axis of reality had spun in such a way that what used to be the sky now seemed like it was a wall. I laid back down and closed my eyes again. The initial, almost shocking intensity had leveled out, but I was still connected to this rhythmically flowing experience. I felt that I was looking at the inside of my body, as if it were a shell, and inside were all of these two-dimensional people dancing. I became aware of chanting sounds that were either creating or being created by the entire sensation. As the total immersion in the experience faded, and I felt like more of an observer, I saw a woman. There was the normal darkness that I would see behind my eyes when they're closed, but through this sort of hole or window, I could see this woman, almost peeking out. Her upper body seemed fairly normal, while her lower body was similar to that of a caterpillar or a centipede. She wore a bonnet and a red dress, and this dress was long enough that it covered the entire lower body. It felt as though she was the one who guarded this portal to this rhythmic world I had just witnessed. It felt as though the other energies that were marching and dancing and chanting were like children. As I focused on their repetitive chant, which I could still hear in the background, I began to hear it in English. It went, I will let you go. 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 It sounded like hundreds, if not thousands, of voices reciting this chant in unison. It seemed like they were teasing me about the fact that I had come into this experience with the intention of breaking through, and instead I had just sort of been surrounded by them dancing and having fun, and I never actually did break through. It was like a sort of like, haha, we won't let you go. I mean, the way that I interpreted that was, haha, we won't let you go with us. Haha, we won't let you go past this point. And it was such a silly way to communicate. I mean, just like a child would say something like, na 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 na, you can't get me. It was like that sort of energy, like that exact feeling that you would get, but it wasn't between a child and another child. It was between me and whoever these people were. So as the chanting faded away and the darkness closed around my view of that woman, I opened my eyes, looking through the branches of the trees that were around me and into the sky. I felt like I was in a giant basket of cookies, like the world was a basket of cookies. This was, of course, a very weird feeling, and it wasn't so intense that I believed it to be true or anything like that, but it was just this sensation that I had when I looked up at the sky and just laid there. I felt like I was in a basket of cookies. And as weird as that was, it felt nice. It felt really nice. And I believe I probably had a smile on my face when I was feeling that. So after the experience was all over, my mind was completely blown away. I felt like just because I had experienced what I had experienced, I couldn't look at the world the same way anymore. And maybe it wasn't as serious sounding. I mean, that sounds very serious when I say that, but it was just like my mind was opened up now to all of these possibilities of what else could be out there, or how much further I could go into this experience. It was basically my first glimpse, as short as it was like my first glimpse into another dimension. My first experience of even the possibility that there can be other dimensions inhabited by beings that aren't necessarily physical in the same way that we are. In that way, it blew me away. And this was the first experience I had ever had where I really went out and I set my intention and had like a serious sort of what I would consider a responsible use of this plant. I had done it about 2 times before this, and those were the first 2 times I had tried it. And this was just like, with friends around, a group of people, and we did it and just kind of sat there with our eyes open and looked at each other. And it was a lot like many of these YouTube videos you might see of people who film themselves smoking salvia. There was like a lot of laughing and things looked weird or whatever. But now, having the experience that I have, using it in a different way, I look at that sort of use as irresponsible and wasteful. And by those 2 things being combined, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to like the power of this plant. It's just such a waste.